What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to another video, everybody. And on this one, people, I want to discuss a few things. First of all, briefly touching on Arsenal's performance in their most recent win against Bournemouth. Another thrilling, nail-biting, salvage performance from Arsenal, somehow mustering a win from the jaws of a possible defeat. But yeah, it was an incredible high-drama match. So I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about some of the rhetoric that has been emanating from several pundits around the football scene, both radio and written journalism. So we're going to talk about that and how it relates to Arsenal, Arteta, etc. Okay, people, so let's kick things off by looking at the performance. And again, it was a very resilient, patient display from Arsenal, going 2-0 down against the team 19th in the league, and somehow turning it around was really impressive. In those last 30 minutes, finding 3 goals when the pressure was really intense, I think was very indicative of the kind of spirit and determination we're seeing in Arsenal. I think there's a real collective desire to win the Premier League. I think the fans, the players, Arteta, everyone is very solely focused on this goal. And when Arsenal in the last couple of games, or 2 of the last few games against Aston Villa and here again against Bournemouth, when they have been down at half time, they've shown an immense determination and a collective spirit that's really driven them home. And then like in the Aston Villa game, Arsenal scored in stoppage time, and it was an incredible winning goal, people. I really want to highlight this from Reiss Nelson, an Arsenal academy player who went out on loan in the Dutch league last year, did pretty well there. And again, you could say it's another example of Arteta nurturing a young player, giving them time and experience by allowing them to go on loan to a different club. And then all of a sudden we see them producing some excellent form when they return to the league. It's happened similar story with William Saliba and his loan spell in France last year. So that was incredible, people. And Reiss Nelson's strike, it was just an awesome effort. Sweetly struck drive from outside the box, and it really caused this euphoric pandemonium to break out in the supporters. And Arsenal, yeah, we're on a high at the moment, people, and long may it continue with 12 games to go. So back onto the journalism angle now, people. So I want to first highlight a quote from Garth Crooks. Now, Garth Crooks is a regular columnist on the BBC, former player, and also, yeah, he's not, I think he played for Tottenham, so he's not a brilliant fan of Arsenal. Like, he doesn't obviously probably like Arsenal because of the rivalry between Tottenham and Arsenal. But anyway, so the comments he wrote about one of the players, so he named Thomas Partey, who's Arsenal's midfield anchorman, plays just in front of the defence, and he's very good at breaking up the play and distributing the ball with long-range passing. So Arteta has written about Partey, so he's just given a little synopsis about why he's put him in the team. And he said, at the moment, everything Arsenal seem to touch turns to gold. Granit Xhaka misses his first Premier League game of the season, just as Partey returns to the side from injury and has the game of his life. So my perception of this comment here from Garth Crooks is one of begrudging compliment to Arsenal, but there's an undertone of taking something away. So I feel like he is trying to slightly undermine and denigrate their performance, and in particular that of Mikel Arteta, because he's implying that this is a lucky break. So he's saying that everything Arsenal touches turns to gold, almost like it's happening because of happenstance or a bit of fate or fortune, rather than planning and a strategy and committing to sound morals and processes, which I feel is why Arsenal are top of the league. And he's also hinting here that, again, it's this stroke of luck that just as Granit Xhaka's injured, miraculously his replacement appears after having had an injury himself. But what that really ignores is, again, managing a player's fitness, and the fact that this isn't some coincidence. It's probably part of the plan that you rest Granit Xhaka and you've gradually broken in Thomas Partey rather than rushing him back before he's ready. So this thesis that it's some weird synchronicity that one player's injured while the other isn't, it neglects to mention that in fact one is probably also resting and slowly recovering and being primed for the right moment to return. So again, it's disregarding Arsenal and Arteta's meticulous planning for getting these players ready. And this is something that Jack Wilshere, former Arsenal player, has mentioned before on radio, because Jack Wilshere coaches one of the youth teams at Arsenal, and he also was working with Arteta last season with the first team, just training. And something that Wilshere commented about 2 to 3 months ago, is around the time just before the World Cup started, Wilshere mentioned that Arteta and his team are very data driven. They look at the numbers, they look at how tired players are, they look at their likelihood for an injury, they look at who's looking freshest in the fitness tests, and all of this data is used to help inform team selection so that players are picked based on their peak physical levels, and others who are maybe not quite hitting the numbers that Arteta is looking for and the team is looking for, they're maybe given a rest for a little bit. So what people like Garth Crooks aren't talking about is the fact that it's not luck somehow that players seem to be arriving and being used at the right moments. It's actually part of a more overarching strategy. And I think it's lazy journalism from Garth Crooks, because he's not actually looking too deeply at the reasons for the success. He's actually just plucking a narrative that maybe fits with his particular feeling about Arsenal that might not be the most complimentary or somehow supportive. So that's one thing I would say, people. And in relation to another journalism, Adrian Durham on Talk Sport. So he, again, talks about a sequence of lucky events that have helped Arsenal, and that is continuing to help Arsenal. So he highlighted that Casemiro was suspended before the Manchester United and Arsenal game, Casemiro being one of Manchester United's important midfield players. He said something similar with James Maddison was injured for Leicester when they played Arsenal. He said that Caicedo and McAllister were unavailable for the fixture that Arsenal played against Brighton earlier this year. But again, what I think Adrian Durham is doing here is allowing his emotion towards Arsenal to obscure his rational commentary about it, because if you just look at what luck is, first and foremost, luck only ever materializes, or seemingly good luck only ever rears its head after you've had success. So people never really talk about good luck you've had when you've not achieved something. Good luck is only ever spoken about when reflecting on a success story. So in some ways, luck is an inevitable bedfellow of a successful team who are taking advantage and performing well. So that's the bit that Adrian Durham isn't focusing on. He's not focusing on the bit that has to accompany luck in order for the outcome to be positive. And that is planning, that is preparation, that is player performance, that's mental strength. All of these aspects Adrian Durham is choosing to ignore, and he's putting more focus on the luck side of things, which again is a little bit begrudging, and you feel like it's taking something away from the reason why Arsenal have been successful so far this season. So, and just another aspect on that luck thing, it's not even luck. So not only is he miscommunicating and not providing a complete analysis about success being a combination of luck and performance, he's also, for me, mislabeling luck, because it's not really luck if your opponent has gotten injured, because that could be due to poor physical conditioning from your opponent. So if you as a team are more physically prepared and have fewer injuries, it's not luck necessarily. Sometimes it's down to training. It could be a strength and conditioning coach and system that's working for your team and the other team isn't applying that. Imagine if you have two fighters and one has come into the fight carrying an injury while the other one is supremely fit and ready. If that fighter goes on to win the fight, it's not a lucky break that he somehow was more physically conditioned. It's due to the fact that he or she was better prepared. So that's the first reason I would say Adrian Durham is missing the point about luck. And the second reason is suspensions. Having a player pick up a suspension for accumulating a certain number of bookings and therefore not being available for a match, as Casemiro was, this isn't unlucky or unfortunate for the opponent. It's actually poor discipline. It's poor awareness of the moment. If someone's picked up a yellow card knowing that the next match they will miss, that's a lack of discipline from them. It's not poor luck. So I also think Adrian Durham is missing the point about what luck is when he's talking about these players who are somehow not available for matches against Arsenal. Okay, people, I'll leave it there. Interested to hear your comments on that, everyone. One final point I want to mention before I close off was something that was raised in a recent discussion about Arsenal and the title race by a journalist from the Athletic publication. I forget his name. I think his name's James. I forget his surname. What James said, he highlighted that Arsenal's biggest danger may be a degree of emotional fatigue down the last few games of the season, especially because this seemed to be their undoing last season when they were chasing top four. And if you look at a couple of Arsenal's most recent results, the victory against Aston Villa, and also this most recent one against Bournemouth, what they both have in common is a desperate push for the final goal in the dying moments. And whilst that's very conducive to a wave of momentum and getting fans and the crowd really pumped up and emotionally behind the team, it may also have a lag effect of being a little bit of a dampener and a causer of fatigue down the track. So I think James was right to mention that. But if we look at it in its entirety, people, it's definitely a positive picture. Arsenal 5 points ahead at the top of the Premier League. Really interested to hear what you think about this, people. And if you have any comments about the video, please do mention those. All right, people. And also, guys, if you like the content, subscribe and like the video if you like the video. All right, people. Peace, love.